Hey!
Hey!
Welcome everybody to another edition of the Parents Lounge. You know, it's our weekly oasis away from the duties of parenting. And honestly, it's really just an excuse so I can. My wife has the kids right now, and it's really. This might not be going out to anywhere. She doesn't need to know that. It's just we're here and we're having a show, man. So it's cool.
We're not broadcasting to anyone. We're literally just sitting quietly by ourselves.
I'm joined as always by my partner in crime and my co-host, Mr. Jason Gowan.
Hello.
Father of three, a man who likes pain in his life, apparently.
It was not my choice. She tricked me.
She tricked you. Wait, is that true?
Have we never talked? I guess that was. I talked about this.
I'm needing some French bread. She literally tricked you to be like, oh, don't worry, I can't have kids, and then.
No, it was a little more sinister than that. I was at work.
Wait, back up. There's more sinister than that.
Yeah, she went straight for a weakness.
What's your weakness? Kryptonite?
I'm a cosplay guy, so I'm a costume guy. And I was at work, and I got a text message, full-on Catwoman. That's all you need to know. And I was not ready for that text message. I quit work. I was like, yeah, I'm going home. And I drove home, and literally, bam, twins within the next month were on their way.
I mean, to be fair, you did it with a little superhero oomph, so that's why you got twins. You're lucky you weren't like full on Iron Man. You would have had quadruplets or something.
Oh no, we were doomed from the start. They're the 8th set of twins in my family, and second in hers. We had no shot of anything else.
It's like a mirror image. Like you're talking, like you might do Stranger Things. Stranger Things has the upside world and the upside down world or something. That's what the twin world kind of is in a way.
It is. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm going through.
I love your wife's friend is on here saying Melissa's going to hurt you.
Actually, that's Katie that did our show with us before. She the mom from the 57-year-old mom panel.
Yes, we love her very much. We have an amazing show tonight, by the way. We have Jamie. I loved your video you posted of you getting. Oh my God! So like usually Dave Schrader texts me after the show. He goes, "You look super stressed tonight." And I go, "Yeah, I'm always stressed." I literally ran here from soccer practice, made a Manhattan, locked the door, and came in to do the show. But this week, for some reason, I leave Friday. I'm doing a live gig at the La Jolla Comedy Store for the whole weekend, Friday through Sunday. So you can't hurt me this week. I'm gone, man. I honestly, I don't care if anybody shows up for the show. I don't care if anybody laughs. It's going to be. Yeah, I'm thinking about the hotel. I'm not even thinking about the show. I'm thinking about quietly sleeping in a room by myself. It's going to be cool.
Please, I'm going to live vicariously through you because I don't get that. I'm going to live vicariously through you.
Not yet, brother. Not till we go on the road. So cosplay is your weakness?
It's severe.
Really?
Yeah.
Like what? Okay, what's if you had a perfect scenario? Now, this is
a little naughty. My wife is literally, Katie's right. I'm going to get murdered when I go down.
Do you guys, even with kids, is like when you try to reignite the fire, do you guys break out the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle costumes?
We've not gone down that road. But I will say this, when I had because you saw the Iron Man suit I built, it's pretty close. I mean,
honestly, dude, Iron Man built that suit. It's on the same level. Do you have the picture? Is the picture up somewhere?
I
see if you can find it over the time.
Yeah,
that's something. When you showed me that picture, I honestly, you showed it to me with pride. But as a guy who's not a cosplay guy, I was like, whoa, that dude is probably working on a manifesto. That dude's clinically insane. He's probably going to be institutionalized at some point. But yeah, it's a pretty graphic photo, and it's an amazing. It's a full-on Iron Man costume you made.
It is, yes. It was not. It was. I made it before I met my wife. I literally met her. I had a lot more free time before I had kids, and I built it over 9 months out of yoga mats. There's the picture.
Don't tell me you were to a wedding. Are you in a wedding?
That's my wedding.
Shut, dude. I can't even. You told me a story about you driving around town with a puppet chasing your ex-wife because you were in a ventriloquist phase. Now, you wore an Iron Man costume to your own wedding?
Yes. So when we went to do the garter, I snuck off and I put the suit on and I came out for the garter and all that as Iron Man. I had him turn off the lights and the Avengers music play. I went full theatrical with it. There's a lot you don't know about me. Well, the funny thing is, you and I have never met in real life.
We've never met in real life. That's honestly the beauty of this relationship. Honestly, we might get to a point where we can never meet in life because this is our job, and I love this. It's super fun. Yeah, I would say you're a dork because when I was a kid, I was like, oh, that guy's a dork. But honestly, dork is not an insult. Dork is Zuckerberg, Bezos, Elon Musk, and Bill Gates. It's like you're taking over the world, man.
Yeah, it's come a long way from when I like Revenge of the Nerds when I was a kid.
Yeah. By the way, have you watched? Have you? I know it's really old, and I'm going to date myself, but Revenge of the Nerds. They break into the girls' sorority, steal all their underwear, and take photos of the girls naked. Which I'm not sure how it worked back then. Pretty sure it's a crime.
It is a crime, and you could not make that movie today.
Revenge of the Nerds. Yeah.
There's a lot of those movies that could not be made today.
I watched Porky's recently, which I was.
I love that movie though.
Pretty crazy. How was your week? I'm going towards stand up and getting out of town, so I'm having a good week. But
yeah, I was like after last week's fiasco with the copyrighted music, I just kind of like let things go for the week. I was like, I just needed to chill out.
So everyone should know we were honestly, and it was funny because we were talking earlier, and I love Richard Marx. I know him pretty well, but we're pals to a degree. But even I was a little nervous. I was like, this guy's a rock star of epic proportions, and it was super fun. And a little side brag for him is that his son Lucas Marx, Katy Perry has a big song "Electric" coming out this Friday that Richard Marx's son co-wrote. Like he's like the Bee Gees of writing. Like he's a serious writer. And so we were super pumped. And so we played all of his videos. I thought it would be super funny if he watched his videos from the 80s and 90s and then talked about it, which in theory is awesome. It should be a TV show, by the way. We should get Asian rock stars.
We talked about that.
Should be a TV show. But unfortunately,
YouTube
doesn't agree with us whatsoever. And so we had 1,000 people live watching the show over all the different platforms. And then they shut us down. They just, all of a sudden, I saw the numbers just drop to like 0 and 1. And only a handful of people saw the entire show, but we cut it up into videos. But yeah, we got copyright things. So we're not going to do that again. We're not using music. We're not using videos. And we're kind of going back to basics.
We can only steal from TikTok now.
I know. Apparently, I love when a new platform comes along and goes, yeah, use any song you want. We don't care. We'll cover the bill. Like
it's like the Wild West over there. Like there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on.
And eventually they'll catch up with them, and then they'll file lawsuits, and then they'll jump to the next, Twitch or Periscope.
But for now, we will steal from them.
But we have a great show tonight. We have another woman guest, which I really like. I love, and we have to have Kate Casey back because we had originally booked Kate Casey, who's one of my favorite people on earth, and she has a fantastic podcast called This Reality Life, which is super. But she was the guest, and then Richard Marx said, "Oh, come on for the whole show," and I didn't want to bump her, so all of a sudden there was this melee of too many people.
She seemed okay with it because she was getting to hang out with Richard Marx.
She said that. She goes, I'll just sit in the corner and hang out with Richard Marx. It was super cool. Yeah. And then we had the Springsteen incident, which won't be happening again for a while, but yeah. Anyway, so we have a couple of beats tonight that are going to be super fun. We have this amazing guest, the Windy City Nanny. We'll give her a little boost up before we bring her in. But we also we're going to try a bit called Dad Rant of the Week. And I'm literally going to let my friend I know him through social media. He's part of the Dadlands group, and he is just a dad. He works in IT, and he's been down and super depressed and super bummed during the pandemic. And he keeps reaching out going, hey, when are we all going to do a Zoom together? And I go, dude, I'm going to let you rant for 90 seconds. So we're going to start a dad rant thing tonight, and we're going to let him rant in the second half of the hour. But yeah.
And if there are other parents out there who need to rant about their kids, the 90-second rant will also be available to you now.
Always be available. And we'll find if he's actually in the waiting room, we're going to keep him waiting for a while so that by the time he rants, he's really fuming. Let me ask you, Jason, if you had to do a 90-second rant right now, and I just threw it at you and said 90-second rant, go.
Right now, my son, while we were at Walmart, decided to ask me where babies come from.
Well, I mean, even I don't know officially. So what did you tell him?
Well, turns out my wife frowned on every explanation that I gave. Apparently, I'm not allowed to use just from the pee hole as a place.
Wait. You
well, I was trying to explain to him because like he thought that they pooped them out, and so like I was trying to explain to him that that's not how that works. And so we got into a little bit of anatomy discussion and the produce section of Walmart, and I was very unnerved. The cauliflower makes me uncomfortable anyway. There's a lot to take in.
We're still Irish Catholics, and we haven't used like the proper terminology. And that's honestly why I'm really excited to have Florence come in tonight, because we're still so repressed. We don't really call the V word or the penis word. We have 2 little girls, and so it's still like your bottom and your front and your private parts. And I remember my mother used to go, "Do you have to tinkle?" And even as a little boy, I was like, "This is weird, Ma. I don't think it's tinkle. Is that the word or something?" So it is funny the terminology that people use, because I'm an Irish Catholic.
I wasn't thinking it through, and like pee hole came out, and I knew when I said it. And my wife, I look over and she's just making this face.
Yeah, it's a terrible choice.
Yeah, it was, and I admit that. I admit that I was wrong, but.
Oh no! Well, I mean, even when you're not wrong, don't you just always? Here's what I love, and I'm looking at Florence down in the waiting room, and we're going to bring her in very, very quickly, because as we start to talk about stuff, and then we talk about kids, I'm like, it feels awkward. I feel like we should honestly have a woman on every single show, and a mom.
Probably should.
Because nowadays it's like people are going to go, "Those 2 dudes are talking about what?" And I don't. But the problem is I have 2 little girls, and so eventually I'm going to have that conversation. And I got married late in life, so I dated extensively, and it's like I'm going to be that dude, and I'll have to break out my Navy sword when the guys come over for dates. It's going to be super uncomfortable.
I look forward to those stories, actually, when that happens, because I feel you're going to make it both tense and hilarious for everybody who is not that kid.
Maybe. All right, should we do it? Let's get it started. All right, our guest tonight, she's awesome. Actually, I watched a bunch of her videos. She's super cool, and we have a lot of questions for her. She is an author, an entrepreneur, a childcare advocate, a philanthropist. She has a great YouTube site, and she is the creator of the web series Windy City Nanny. Please welcome Florence Ann Romano.
What an introduction.
Hello.
That's what I do.
Hello. So good to be here. So nice to be with you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Thanks for spending time with us.
I feel like you're going to really put me to work tonight with that. Just based on the conversation I heard before I came on. I'm very excited.
Here's the thing. Jamie and I should not be left alone to do this show, and yet somebody allowed this to happen, and here we are.
Yeah.
So
I saw your reactions in the room as we were talking. I was like, "Let's just bring her in, because this is going to go south pretty quickly." Hey, listen, it goes south on me every day. He has boys. He's fine. It doesn't matter to him. I have 2 little girls who are questioning, but we are, I'm not great with that kind of stuff. I'm not great. I'm Irish Catholic. I don't know how to talk about emotions. So we don't, we just have that crazy uncle who did some weird stuff, and we never talk about him.
Well, I'm Italian Catholic, so this is going to be an interesting dynamic. There's a little more emotion with the Italian Catholics, I'd have to say, but the guilt is the same. A lot of the, not talking about certain things are the same. So it's interesting to see the different generations change how they talk about certain things. Like you were talking about, like the proper anatomy. Like, how do you have that conversation? I don't remember my mom telling me what the proper names were for my body parts. I'm sure it probably happened at some point, but I honestly don't remember. I still think we also are now so polarized in so many ways that we're making our kids grow up a little faster than they should. We don't keep them in that innocent phase long enough anymore.
I agree.
So I could go on and on. So don't let me.
We'll get into it. Hey, really quick, because I went through a bunch of your stuff. talk about really quickly how you kind of became the Windy City Nanny. I mean, your backstory is pretty interesting, and I thought it was really cool with the web series stuff that I saw.
So I started as a mother's helper at the age of 11. And I mean, who was letting their children stay home with a child, basically? But this happened back in the day. I started as a mother's helper, kind of figuring out what were the dynamics of the home and kind of shadowing the mom. Then at 12, started babysitting like a lot of young girls did, and then went on to become a nanny for two very specific families in the town where I grew up. Went off to college and nannied for all of my professors' kids while I was in school, then came back and, in the summer and continued working for those families. And then in my early adulthood, I continued working as a nanny too. And so I started thinking about what I've learned from being a nanny. And that's how I ended up writing my book, Nanny and Me, that helped children understand the transition of being cared for by their parents to being cared for by a nanny or a caretaker. And then Windy City Nanny came because I hail from Chicago, and it had a little whimsical feel to it, a nod to Mary Poppins. But I wanted really to advocate for childcare, because in our country, over 65% of families in America today have a nanny or a caretaker. And there you go, right, Jamie? I mean, and Jason, I'm sure you have babysitters and you have other people that are helping you, I imagine.
Grandparents come in when necessary, yes.
And I love to put an emphasis on the village. I think we don't talk about the village nearly enough anymore, because you hear that old adage that it takes a village, it takes a village. It's a great saying, except I feel like who has directions to the village, who has a phone number to the village? Like, it's a very ambiguous statement. So I feel like we need to talk about who is in this village and why is that village important? How are they influencing parents? How are they influencing children? And does that village have an effect on how we're raising our children going forward? So my role as the Windy City Nanny is really about childcare and advocacy for that.
It's so funny you say that. So I had a nanny. And then well, the kids were supposed to go to school anyway, so we were kind of transitioning out anyway. And then the pandemic happened.
Okay.
So we just cut her off and paid her for not coming in for 2 months. And then I became the nanny, because my wife's job, I'm an actor in comics, so my job literally disappeared for like a month. And my wife works, so I watched my kids every day, all day for 14 months. And I'm a dude in my 50s. I was like, it was really, I wasn't sure I was going to make it. We're out of it now, and I've survived it. Right. But as someone who just did that, there's so much when I hear you say, oh, I love working with children, I'm like, these were my children. And I still I was thinking about selling them overseas. I was like, I'm not sure I can get through this thing. So the patience of someone to be able to, at that age, to understand that they love working with kids and stuff. I mean, my hat's off to you. And I think teachers are not paid enough. I truly do.
Yeah, teachers definitely are not paid enough. But, and I appreciate the accolades, for loving children so much. Now, there's always a difference between your children and, my own children. If I were watching your children, I get to hand them back to you at some point. So there is a difference between the 24/7 work that a parent is doing and the work that a nanny is doing if it's not 24 hours and 7 days a week. Some nannies are live-in nannies, and they are working just as hard as the parents. It depends on the dynamic. But I think the one thing that happened during the pandemic that was so interesting to me was the fact that everybody was able to rally around this one idea, which was, we all know what it feels like to have our village taken away from us. And if that was your nanny, Jamie, that was taken away from you, all of a sudden you had to become, dad 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We all know what it feels like now to not have people to count on to help us in whatever that capacity might be. So I think now on the other side, or coming out of COVID, we're putting a bigger emphasis on who's helping us. And this idea of also asking for help and being okay with asking for that help, that's super important too. Because I think oftentimes we're shamed for thinking if we can't do it ourselves, then we're a bad parent, or we're a bad nanny, or we're a bad village member, whatever it is. And we need to normalize the idea of asking for help and letting people in.
So my wife says that all the time. She says it all the time. She's like, oh, I'm such a bad mother. And I'm like, you're not a bad mother. We're working. And the problem is we live in the West Coast, right? And so all of our family's on the East Coast. So we don't have any family. And luckily now we have so many great neighbors and stuff and friends and family. But yeah, for years it was like if anybody watched our kid, we paid for it. And a lot of people in Los Angeles and major cities are like that, where it is like that. And the cost of childcare is insane these days. And so a lot of people I know just said they couldn't take it anymore and they've just moved home. So I totally get it. And we thought about moving back to where family is because it's so, I mean, I don't know how my family did it with 6 kids. We only have 2 and I'm like hanging on by a thread certain days. It's nuts.
I feel like it used to be different. The village used to be different. More parents used to have their grandparents involved. It used to be closer knit in that way. I mean, I grew up in a multi-generational home. My mom's parents lived with us growing up, my Nana and Papa. So, it was the best experience ever, but I certainly wasn't the norm. I think growing up, my friends didn't have their grandparents living with them, but because of how I was brought up, I think it honestly was one of the reasons I loved being a nanny, was because you learn to be a caretaker in situations like that. So I think there's a lot to be learned from those family dynamics, maybe that have been lost a bit. But what can we take from those really like traditional old school ways and apply them to modern day? I think there's a secret sauce there regarding how we're raising our kids.
Yeah. Jason has some questions. We have a ton of questions for you tonight because honestly, we need help. We need a lot of help. I loved your videos and I showed them to my wife because a lot of times it's like I have to like talk her off a cliff. But it's not just her; it's social media. I see all the moms and they are like, it's crazy.
There's so many metrics now that people are judging you by, and they add all this ridiculous extra stress to you that is quite literally driving people to the brink.
Right.
And there's so much information coming from so many different places. Some of it's great information, some of it is not. And so people are just kind of scrambling, trying to figure things out. So we're going to come to you and we're going to find out what we got to do to make our kids better human beings in society.
Oh boy, that's a tall order. Oh my God.
It is if you knew our kids.
And we're going to hold you to it. If you're not right, there's going to be lawsuits involved here.
I believe it. There's no money back guarantee involved with any of this. I mean, I should have had a lawyer present.
We're tough. We're tough, but we're fair.
Well, first, let's talk about social media then, because right at the end of the pandemic, we go out to the beach. It's kind of cold, but the kids are loving it. First time at the beach in a long time. They're playing in the tidal pools. We get there. My wife immediately, right out of the chute, takes a few pictures, sits over on the side, posts it to Facebook. Great day at the beach, finally away from the pandemic, blah, blah, blah. And as soon as she's done, she comes over, she goes, okay, that's it, we're leaving. I go, what are you talking about? We're not going anywhere. The kids this is the greatest day of their life. They're having a blast. And then, so she was cold and she was kind of angry the rest of the day. She wasn't enjoying it. She was super cold, but we stayed for a while longer. We went home. That night, I talked to my friend in Portland. He's like, thanks a lot, dude. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, my wife saw your wife's post about her day at the beach, which looked awesome, and was like, how come we never go to the beach? And I was like, dude, it was the worst day you've ever seen. That is inherently the problem. Right. All we do is we take these little snapshots that go, hey, we're great parents, but we're not in the moment. We're never caught it. We're never in the moment about like, here we are. It's this crazy, show everyone what we're doing. And yet we're all so horribly depressed inside about what's happening.
I would feel bad posting that many photos of me just weeping on social media, actually.
Do you know what though, Jason? That is not a bad idea, because now more than ever, people want to see that authenticity on social media, because what you're saying, Jamie, is true. People are sick and tired of seeing the picture perfect life because no one can relate to that. No one has that. But there's this weird pull also that people have on social media toward the things that look perfect. So where do you live then? Do you live in the reality of it all and try to connect with those people that are making you feel like I'm not alone in this and you can relate to them? Or are you still attracted to those people that are making it look like they have it all figured out and you're the only loser on the playground that doesn't know how to do anything or raise their kids or handle the pandemic or whatever it might be? So social media in a lot of ways can be very powerful, and I will never condemn technology because I think technology is great. Do I think that every way it's used is great? No.
I gotta do it like this though. I gotta do it like this, though, right? And then go like this. That was me during the pandemic. That was
but that's reality. I like that. Did you post this? Oh,
that's my album. That's going to be my next album cover. Yes. All I ever post is insane photos. But my wife and I are very different. She's, anytime, that's why she's not, if people go, why isn't your wife in your photos? And I go, dude, it's like a 3-week process to get it passed. Like she has to go through and proof everything. And I don't have time. I'm like, look, it's been 2 weeks. You gotta pick one. And she's like, I don't like any of them. I'm like, all right, you're out. That's just who she is. She doesn't like to share that side of her. I'm a comic, so I share. It's tragedy plus time. If I can get a laugh, then I'll show you. I'll show you my white ass, and so that's how it goes.
But that's important, though.
I think so too. I totally agree.
I understand your wife's perspective, though, because you know what? Think of it sometimes from the person who's living that day to day or that monotony or just is over kind of what their environment is. And for a minute, they want to just feel like they have that perfect day on a beach, even if it is a split second. Yeah. And so that's why you can't look at social media and think, yeah, that's a really good representation of reality. And, sometimes it is depending on the accounts you follow. But I also think it's a teachable moment for kids as well, as they're involved on social media so much. They're influenced by it just as much as we are as adults. I think that's the irony of the whole thing. We want to teach our kids not to, give into this peer pressure, that, not get angry and lash out or, be verbally abusive on the internet or all that. I mean, can we as adults restrain ourselves from doing things that we tell our children? Exactly. So how do we teach them, but say, don't pay attention to what mom or dad does, do as I say, not as I do, sort of thing. And I think we see a lot of that on social media as well. Did I miss a question that someone had up there? Pardon me.
He just had the comment. My wife did the normal post with what me and the boys got her, and the follow-up behind the scenes one where my honey badger toddler threw her cards. We got her pulled more reactions.
Honey badger toddler. That is hysterical. Oh my gosh.
By the way, if anyone has questions, they should definitely write them down because we are taking as many questions as possible. But yeah, this is awesome. Talk about your book a little bit. I love that you did that. And so what are some of the lessons that you are sharing in your book?
I wanted it to be the real life stuff that I did with the kids. So everything I did is a real life scenario, from the kids getting hurt to me reading to them in a tent that we made, all these stories. And one thing I used to do with the kids, which I loved, was every time they would take a nap or go to sleep at night, I'd go in each of their rooms and each of them would get a customized story. I'd ask them, where do you want to go in your dreams tonight? And they would tell me, and then I would create the dream for them. So in the book, there is the dream scene where you see the clouds come to life and all the animals in their bedroom are a part of it. Leave it to my theater background. I think that's probably where that was coming from.
I love that.
Yeah, I love that.
I'm totally using that.
Yeah, I'm just doing it too.
I have done that in little realms of tried to, take them into beautiful places. Like I tried, my one daughter's like me. Like when I was a kid, I couldn't sleep. Like caffeine jacks me up and I couldn't sleep as a kid. So I would practice with her breathing through your nose, breathing out through your mouth. And I learned how to sleep by transporting myself to places in my life. And I just walk around, whether it's my San Diego days or something, I kind of just go off. And so she and I would do that. And I would take her, I would say, let's go to one of your happiest memories. What day is it? Where are you? Where are we? What was the weather like? Are we walking around? Who's there? And let's say hi to people. And so we kind of would lay there and do that. And I love what you did. So you're kind of creating a whole story for them. I think that's fantastic.
I love what you did. That is, I love that you're using all of their senses too. And may I mention that is emotional learning that you're teaching your child in that moment.
Oh, I'm a good dad, Jason. See it?
Right? Look at that. You're growing as a person, Jamie.
Somebody tell my wife. Somebody tell my wife.
Well, it's recorded, so you can just show her.
You can play this for her later. What is your wife's name? I'll tell her. This is
Kate.
good.
It's Kate. She
She's
won't watch this. She doesn't
mom.
even. I was on a TV show for 4 years. She never watched one episode. She doesn't have any idea what I do for a living. It's terrible. It's terrible.
Maybe that's what the secret to a healthy marriage is, not to know too much information.
Maybe.
There you go.
Maybe. I do something a little different. My son has like these 5 stuffed animals that are like his people. And I've given them each kind of personality traits. One's afraid of a lot of things, one's really greedy. So each of them has a personality or a trait that I want him to explore. And so each night when we do that, we go through each of the characters and they all say goodnight. And he kind of talks with them about their day. And each character kind of gets their day in the spotlight, depending on what he's going through.
I have to say, I am very impressed by both of you gentlemen. These are really, really smart tactics that you use with your kids at night, because you're giving them that one-on-one time with you. You're encouraging them to use their imaginations, which we can't tell our kids to do enough. And also, people forget that you actually have to teach your kids to use their imaginations sometimes. It's not like the most instinctual thing. I know people are going to be like, that's not true. Everyone has imagination. Sometimes you have to help your children do that. So what you both are doing is helping them do that, but then also giving them really specific tools that are going to help them as they get older, identifying these feelings, like you said, Jason, that you want them, these qualities that you want to instill in them and help them discover within themselves, I think is really beautiful.
We posted an article the other day about, and which I totally agreed with, the fact that it's one of the key points of raising kids was that if you give them fewer toys, they'll actually use their imagination. And sometimes every toy is so very specific that it's like, hey, we're going to make a bracelet. And they make the bracelet exactly the way it goes. And they go, that toy's over. And the next one's like, hey, we're going to polish a stone to a gem. And polish a stone to a gem. As opposed to going, hey, here's some bubble wrap, a box, and some of the duller kitchen utensils. Here's some toilet paper roll holders, some glitter glue, and a wig from Goodwill. Have fun.
That's exactly it. I mean, how often?
Way cheaper.
Way cheaper. And how often do kids get presents all the time? They get a big new bike and it comes in this big box. How often do they open the gift and then the box is more important to them?
Always.
It always happens to be that way. But I think that there is something really profound in that moment when they do that. They're choosing to use their imaginations. I think sometimes there's the teacher, Maria Montessori. She's the one who founded the Montessori school.
It was a real person, Montessori. I didn't know where they got that. That was some Indian name that meant like sunlight or something.
I know. No, she's a real person. She was the first graduate from like medical school in Italy. She was the first female graduate medical school in Italy. She's the one that founded the Montessori method. And her whole idea behind it is that it's not about teaching your kids certain skills in school. It's about letting them kind of use their instincts and using less instruction with them and let them see where they go. And my sister was the perfect example of a Montessori student. My little sister, when she started school, the only thing she wanted to do was wash a dish in a sink. And my mom's like, I don't know where I'm going to send this kid to go to school. She just wants to wash dishes in a sink. And she sent her to Montessori school, and it was the best thing for her. Now she's like this, amazing lawyer. She wanted to do what she wanted to do and how she wanted to do it. And so she went to Montessori school. And that was the whole idea about that freedom of education, letting them kind of explore it. But I think that it's important to figure out what works for your kids. It's not a one size fits all thing. And I think what you guys are doing right now is giving the kids a chance to figure out who they are and what works for them.
Sometimes.
I mean,
sometimes I tell them exactly what's going to work for them. They don't know. This is what's happening right here and right now. I don't know.
The other thing is if I give them too much freedom, then I have to get a taser to get things back under control. And I don't like to do it.
I got to use some chloroform. There's Benadryl involved. The whole thing gets pretty spooky. Hey, I have a question for you. So here's what happened with our nanny. So we had the nanny, right? And she was great. We love her and she's a part of our family and everything. But here's what I learned is that it's way harder to get the kids to pick up something than to just pick it up yourself, which I think what happened with her. because as soon as I kind of took over, I was like, hey, you just left a cupcake wrapper here. What are you doing? She goes, oh, she was like confounded, because I think that she was so, like, the problem with a nanny is sometimes is that they're so afraid of losing their job that the kid can't get hurt on their shift.
Right.
If the kid complains too much, is the parent going to be side with them? Like, I used to tell her, I go, you can punish that kid. I don't care what you do to her. I want her to be a good person, and you make her do stuff.
Yeah.
But I feel like at some point she was like, because it's taken me 100, I'll say, like, pick up 100 times, and then I'll just pick it up because it's way easier.
Right.
So she almost trained them that somebody was kind of following around, taking care of their stuff. And it's taken me a year and a lot of punishing, but they are starting to finally, like, unload the dishwasher. I made them fold their own. By the way, folding.
How old are your kids? Can I ask?
7 and 5.
Okay. Oh, that's pretty. I'm pretty impressed with that. At 7 and 5, they're doing.
I folded their laundry so many times, and it's like, and here's when they clean their room, they just go, everything goes in the hamper, and you're like, this is not dirty. It's so I finally had to take the hamper out of their room, and I go, you put the pile of dirty clothes at the bottom of the stairs, and if I find clothes that are clean in there, like a coat, what's the coat doing in the hamper? So I started I would just like lose my mind.
I get it.
So I felt like the nanny almost took so good care of them so that the parents came home and everything was quiet and well taken care of, as opposed to more training those children to look after themselves.
I think that you are describing a situation that's very typical in a lot of homes that people will definitely relate to. My advice out there for those nannies listening or those parents, I always say that a nanny is an extension of your eyes, ears, and hearts. So if that means that they get to punish, then they get to punish. If that means that, you know, they're going to follow your house rules, that there's no sugar after a certain time, or whatever your rules might be, you have to make the nanny enforce the rules of the home on your behalf, or else this is what happens. The work that you're trying to do with your children gets undone then when the nanny's around. And I am not knocking the nannies at all, but I ran into this myself where I wanted to be cool nanny. I wanted them to love me. I didn't want them to be mad at me if I punished them, if I yelled at them, whatever it was. But I started to notice that what I was letting them get away with was starting to affect the parents. And that makes me not the right nanny for those people. I mean, I'm not doing my job in a lot of ways then, because I'm not an extension of what those parents need. Yes, you let them get away with a little bit more with you than you would the parents, whatever, there's a fine line there. But I understand that frustration because, look, you said it's taken the better part of a year for you to teach these values, to teach these chores to your kids, when if the nanny was also enforcing that at the same time, it would have been the rules of the house. And I'm not blaming her. You have obviously.
I don't blame her either.
Family. No, not at all.
I've told her many times, but yeah, it's just one of those things where it would take me 3 minutes to pick up their room. It will take me 2.5 hours to get them to pick up their room. And at some point you're like, this is more painful than just doing it myself. It's so frustrating.
But not every day you want to battle. I get that. So, did you say something? I'm sorry.
No, I when you're finished, I have a question.
I'm done. Oh, I'm ready for your question.
Oh, I'm done.
First, Dave Schroeder said, "You are the queen, Flo Rowe."
I see that. I love you, David. I do. Thank you.
So for me, what if the nanny isn't just a working nanny, but a grandparent who comes into the house and they come in with undermining your house rules?
Yep.
You don't want to upset the family dynamic and cause all these problems. What do you recommend for coping with that for both the parents and dealing with the kids afterwards?
This is moved. Yes, exactly. This is very common these days because the granny nanny is becoming a much more popular thing. The extended family, they become the nannies. I always say you have to pick your battles. Not everything is going to be a fight. One friend of mine called me and she was like, "I'm going crazy. my mother keeps bringing balloons over, and it is a choking hazard for the kids. She thinks it's fun. She thinks it's cute, and it is a choking hazard, and I'm going to lose my mind. And so I said, okay, it's a safety issue. This is a battle we're going to choose to fight. Then she says to me, but they give them so much candy. I'm like, how much candy? And so, she's like, well, like a sucker a day or something like that. I said, okay, is this really a battle we're going to choose to fight? You're like, no, I can deal with that. I was like, we're going to deal over choking hazard or a little bit too much candy. I think we're going to go with choking hazard. So for you, and I know this is a very extreme example, not everything is going to be a fight, but they also have to remember, these grandparents out there, these are not your children. This isn't your do-over with your grandchildren that you wish you could have had with your kids, where you're going to come in and say, now I'm going to do things differently here, or I'm going to let them get away with everything because, I was the strict parent. I want to be cool now. You do have to put your foot down because it is your family rules first.
Gotcha.
Well, it's funny too, because sometimes my wife will be like, I don't know if I trust them with my kids. And I'm like, they raised you. They're your parents. I'm so confused. I don't know. Look what they did to me. I don't know if they're gonna. I don't know if they.
Yeah, see, that would be my wife's argument. It's like, well, they did raise you. So
look how much they damaged you. So I don't know if they should even be. We did the same. My grandfather, the grandfather he had a grape, and he was like, he was teaching them to go and suck the grape in, and they were like 3 years old. They go, dude. We're still at the phase where we're cutting grapes into like fourths.
Yes, I was about to have a heart attack thinking about that.
In your mouth, I go, dude, don't do that. That's crazy.
Oh my gosh!
But it's all good. It's all good. Hey, listen, we have a bit. We're gonna try a bit. This is our first time doing this, and we're probably gonna need your help.
Okay.
We're gonna do the dad. So we're gonna bring in. We have just a regular guy, dad. He's a buddy of mine. He works in IT.
Okay.
His name's John Mixon, and let's bring in John for a second.
Hi,
hey,
John.
John. As you can see from the look of John and the room and everything that's happening there, John's hanging on by a thread. Right, John? He's got his gaming. He's obviously just left Fortnite or Call of Duty or something.
Don't let him bully you, John.
He's got his Little Bites muffins up there.
I was trying to figure out. I thought it was goldfish, like an enormous Costco thing of goldfish. But John, whatever floats your boat.
Yeah, he's had a couple Monster Energy drinks. He's pretty close to faking his own death and moving to Bali at this point. We don't know what's going to happen with John. So what we decided to do, he kept reaching out because we used to do this little hang in the Dadlands where we had just a bunch of dads. And he's like, dude, I need one. I'm not going to make it. Can we hang? Because I got to chat. I said, I'll tell you what. I'll give you 90 seconds to rant. John, is there anything we need to know before you start your rant?
We can't hear you, John.
John, you're muted. So this rant's already going horribly awry. This is just going to be part of his rant because he's like, every time I talk to him, he's like, I'm not going to make it, man. He did the same. He worked from home and watched his kids and during the pandemic. I'm glad we did a sound check before the show, John. It really worked out for you.
Do I get to read his mind and decide what I think his rant's going to be?
Yes. Honestly, way better. Yeah, Florence, what is he about? Is he on?
Can you hear me?
I can.
There you go.
But I
would rather. But Florence, do you know what do you guess he's going to rant about?
If it's okay, if I'm thinking about if it is going to be, I'm going to lose it. I'm guessing it might have something to do with your spouse and you having an argument about who has the better strategy with the kids. That's what I'm guessing.
I could have guessed that. Please, Florence. let me guess, John. You have some problem with being a father and having children. Is that something about your wife involved?
I mean, y'all are in the right ballpark for the most part, but no. My problem tonight is tacos.
Hey! I got to start the clock, dude. You hang on.
You got 90 seconds.
All right, listen. And 90 seconds. Can you mute him? If you get to kick him out, and then we'll decide. We'll talk to Florence. If Florence has some answers, and we might need to hear more from you, or we might not. We don't know yet.
Okay.
So John has 90 seconds to let it fly. A year and a couple months of serious pandemic hell is going to be vented in the next 90 seconds. Please welcome our dad rant of the week, Mr. John Mixon.
I'm tired of everything, y'all. Like tonight, I'm tired of tacos. I had to go to Taco Bell. I had to get tacos for the family. I never know what to order. I have to get texted the order every time. And half the time that I order stuff, it's not on the menu. I just usually say queso and make up some letters after whatever I'm ordering and hope that that's a thing. So I get all the tacos home and I've been looking forward to this meal all day and I want to eat. And these jerk kids just don't want to let me eat. They just want to be the worst. I give Miles a taco. He's a 2-year-old, drops it straight into the floor so that the dog can eat it. Meanwhile, my 5-year-old, who reads at a 4th grade level but drinks milk at a 2-year-old level, sits here just flashing his arms around, and I've got milk all over the walls. And like I'm still reeling from just this exhausting day and being trapped in this house for the last 14 months, having to do IT and just go out of my mind. I have these little bites up here. These are the only snack that I can protect. I have to keep them up here. I tell them that's a trash box. I tell them that's where I throw my trash. And I do so that I can hide my snacks. The goldfish, they're all downstairs. Whenever they get into there, they just tear the pantry out and just throw everything like they're just godless heathens in the middle of the hallway looking for one strawberry bar that is actually apple flavored or one apple pouch that's mango. That's it. I'm good.
Wow, we left 3 seconds.
Wow, he had time to spare.
That was sensational. That was
honestly, I felt the pain. I felt the pain of hiding your own snacks. You know, I don't know if I've hidden my own. I've hidden their snacks. I hide their stuff all the time.
But you know, it's funny, my wife. Like, they do not understand that stuff costs money. They think that it's just a vending machine that refills itself and it will always be there. They don't care. They're wild animals.
My 2-year-old knows those are muffins, and everything he sees is now muffins. Everything is muffins. Like if it's pound cake, it's muffins. If it's cake, it's cake. But like, you know, Pop-Tarts, those were muffins, but now he knows frosted Pop-Tarts because when you add sugar to it, it becomes so much better for him.
Your 90 seconds is over. Let's talk to our professional expert over here. Florence.
My professional advice for you is I think you need to eat all your meals in your room, locked in your room. I think tacos come home. Tacos go with you immediately into the room. You don't even feed your kids until you feed yourself. Yeah. I think that's the worst advice in the world. I have
some advice here. John, I know you do ITs. You're good with computers and stuff, right? Is that true?
Yeah.
Let me ask you, could you build a time machine? Is that something that might be within the parameters of your knowledge? If you could build a time machine, you could go back and not have the kids. Does that make any sense?
Like I can take the stories of my vasectomy and they will simply reinforce what a great decision it was.
I haven't had one yet, and I really need to get one, but we'll talk about that. That's a whole other episode to go. All right, listen, let's let John go. John, thank you so much for being our dad.
Hi, John.
Love you, brother. I hope you feel better.
My gosh, tacos. I would have never guessed. That would have never been. I eat sitting in the bathtub alone, listening to him.
During the pandemic, my wife, I was literally, I'm not kidding. I was with the kids. I would get up. I would honestly sometimes like get up at 4:30 just so I had an hour before they got up to like compose myself and just figure it out and have a cup of coffee. I was with them all day.
That's some Buddha shit, man.
Yeah, and for dinner, my wife, I made every meal. My wife, luckily, she was working still. So I made every meal. And then she's like, you're not going to eat dinner with us? And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm going to sit in the other room by myself. I'm going to watch TV. And I can't be with them anymore. And that's how I feel he's at that point.
You know what that's called, which is like the trendiest phrase now, right?
No.
Self-care. You guys hear this all the time, don't you?
What that is?
Self-care. That's what you just described. You said, these are my boundaries. This is what I need right now. That's what you just did.
I saw, it's so funny because that's my next question, because I wrote, take care of yourself, which is a big topic for you. And for the love of God, I've begged my wife. I've begged her. I said, listen, I'll watch the kids. Go away for a weekend. You have got to get away from this. You've got to go away. You're not going to make it.
Right.
And that is the problem. My wife, she feels guilty when she's away from the kids. Right. And when she's with the kids too much, she wants to kill herself. So not literally wants to kill herself, but she's losing her mind. Right. And I go, you have to not feel guilty. You have to take care of yourself. It's so important.
my advice to Kate definitely is that she does need to get away from the moment. I think the only way, well, let me put it this way. There was a mom that I talked to, maybe this was the episode you watched with Windy City Nanny. She was on the couch with me talking, and I was just kind of asking about her life and what she did to take care of herself. And she had this moment where she just kind of broke down and said, I don't even know who I am anymore. I don't know who I am other than mom. So I started talking to her about what were the things you used to do before you had kids. And then her eyes lit up and she was like, oh, I used to go with my husband at these street festivals and we go do this and do that, and talking about what she loved to do. Right. And all of a sudden there was this glow in her face, and she needed me to give her permission to find herself again. And I know that seems like this like really deep thought, but it's almost like someone needed to sit in front of her and say, you're an amazing mom, but that isn't your only title. That's not the only thing that's going to matter in your life. That's not the only role you have. And you need to take care of yourself in order to take care of everyone else that you have to take care of. You got to recharge the batteries. So Kate, please go do that for yourself.
We're going to cut this clip and send it to her. Yeah. She's, I mean, you know, she feels guilty when she's not with the kids. And then,
well, I think it goes back to that metric that we're all being judged. Like people feel like they're being judged, so they don't want to take that time for themselves because there's a chance that things are going to start falling through the cracks. And obviously COVID heightened everything.
Right. Well, now everyone's so used to being together that now I think if you start to pull away a bit, you're going to start thinking that you're somehow being neglectful, and that there were things you enjoyed about the pandemic. I know that's strange to think, but you did. And there were, I mean, not you, maybe Jamie, not you at all, but but I think that there was this idea that there was time given to parents in a different way than they had before with their children. Maybe too much time. We can all agree with that. But a lot of moms and dads have been saying to me, the one thing they're going to miss is the little moments that they never got to usually see before, especially the working parents.
Yes.
They can get to maybe see their kids go off to school or put them to bed at night. Or when they were done with school, even if it was on Zoom in the next room, they came in and said, this is what I did in school today. So there were certain things that I think working parents got to experience for the first time. Now, don't get me started down that rabbit hole of how hard it was for those working parents to work from home and also have to do remote learning with their children and everything else. So I'm not saying that it is like a one size fits all here. I'm putting a pretty bow on it. But if we are going to look back on the pandemic and not think there was anything that we learned from it that is going to be positive, then we did it all kind of for like, not, you know, for what? We had no choice. But I'm one of those people that's like, you have to find things that happened during the pandemic that you learned that you're going to take with you on the other side that are going to make your family stronger, you stronger, whatever it is. Maybe it was a bad experience that's going to teach you something about your parenting or about yourself. I don't know. But I want people to take the time to reflect on it, because it can't be for nothing. The seismic shift that happens in the universe when a once in a century pandemic comes around, you know, I think we better look inward about what we learned.
Well,
I always
go ahead. I'm sorry, Jamie.
You got it.
So what would you recommend as the most important coping skills for both parents and the kids? What are the most important coping mechanisms we can start to integrate now, or we should start or already have been doing to get things rolling again?
Separation anxiety. I know we think it's just our kids that are going to have separation anxiety, but do you know how many parents have told me they're having anxiety about separating from their kids now? That it's this, I know you guys don't think it to be true.
Oh, I get it. I totally get it.
There is some separation anxiety there. And parents feel like they have no idea how to transition out of this now. From being together all the time to now the kids have to go to daycare. They're kicking and screaming over the fact that they don't want to go. They want to be home with mom and dad, or that, you know, they're used to now being in this little bubble. Parents even, I got to go back to the office. Some parents are like, you know, I kind of liked how loosey-goosey things were, and now I have to go do that. And wait, I'm going to miss a lot now again. And I'm never probably going to get this opportunity again to be home with them the way that I have. So my advice is start separating as much as you can, little by little, to get yourself used to it and the kids. And the best way I can equate it for you is we all know what it's like when summertime is over and you got to go back to school, usually before like the pandemic days. And you had to go back to routine bedtimes and, you know, paying attention to kind of all these things that kind of went out the window. Rules went out the window during the summer. Those same rules apply here to try to get transitioned back into this post-COVID world. But anxiety and separation anxiety are the two things I think we need to pay the most attention to. And the best way for you to do it is to start practicing for yourself and practicing with your kids.
Yeah. It's funny because before we got married, before we had kids, my wife, she made me read this book, Bringing Up Bebe. Do you know it?
Oh, it's a French book. Yes.
French book. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And so apparently, and I was all over it. I was like, this is exactly how I think. So in France, the kids aren't the center part of your life. It's your life and the kids are an accessory.
Right.
And then they kind of follow along in your path and you don't kind of bend your life to that. And my wife made me read that book. And she's like, this is the way we're going to raise our kids. I go, yes, of course.
Sounds phenomenal. Did you do it?
And no, of course not. Day one. And I brought it up to her. I was like, hey, you made me read that book. And she goes, oh, that book's insane. No, not a chance. No, she's not just a helicopter. She's like a backpack mom. The other night, she had a wig out because she goes, hey, we have a space heater in the backyard. She goes, hey, really quick, if there's an earthquake, is that space heater going to shoot through the back of the house and kill the kids? I go, well, if it's that big of an earthquake, I'm pretty sure the house is going to kill the kids. I don't know why you just panic about the kids and stuff.
But you know, there's something chemical, I think, that clicks in your mind once you have those kids. It changes. Yeah. I remember Ryan Reynolds said about Blake Lively, the celebrity couple. He was saying, before I had children, I would have, used my body to, use it as a shield to save my wife's life. And then we had a child. And then I realized I would take my wife's body and use it as a shield to save our child. And so I know that's an extreme example, but it's just, I think, an illustration of it. Your mind just changes. It's not really about you anymore. And I hear that saying all the time, but it's true.
It's absolutely true. Yeah. I mean, I'm a curmudgeon and I make jokes about my kids, but I love them. I'm going to miss, I'm going to go like, see you later. I'm going to San Diego. And then like 3 miles away from the house, I'm like, I miss those kids. So we are super connected. In the last year, we were super connected.
Right.
I was their tutors all day long. I did everything with them. And so, yeah, I mean, we're totally connected, but I am starting to book gigs left and right. I'm like, and they go, it doesn't pay anything. I don't care. I'm coming. I'll be there. There's not even a show. I don't care. Just tell my wife there's a show. I'm coming to New England in the fall. So,
this show's not even real. We just do this so that our wives.
Show's not even real. It isn't even going out at all. We're just doing this solely to get away from our wives for about an hour.
I understand. Everyone needs their outlet. What did I teach you guys today? Self-care.
It's mostly the wives. I mean, honestly, and every guy I talk to, it's about the wife. And there's a whole social media. And nobody looks down and goes like, oh my God, there's a woman, single mom raising 4 kids working at McDonald's in Cincinnati. And I'm so much better off than her. That never crosses their mind. It's always the woman who's filthy rich, doing Pilates all day, has a night nurse, a nanny, 3 assistants. It's like, why can't I be her? Like, we only look up in this society. We never look down and go, oh my gosh, how lucky am I? My kids are healthy. I'm not bankrupt. Everything's going pretty good, man. Why can't we focus more on that and not be so like it's everything's great. I mean, I make jokes about everything, but everything's pretty good,
Because I think that's human nature. I think if we all tell each other that we should be of the moment, in the moment, that is such a hard thing to put into practice. I mean, I even get mad at myself about it sometimes, like where I know I'm literally missing it. I'm watching myself miss it. And I could kick myself for doing it. But the truth is, we have to give, I think, ourselves and everybody else a whole lot of grace, because parenting is tough. And there is no rule book to it. You can read as many books as you want. That book is not going to get you through that 3 a.m. feeding where you are exhausted. There is nothing that's going to fix that. So it's kind of one of those things like, don't read too much until it happens, because it's like what women tell me about childbirth. They're like, don't research it. Just do it when you have to do it because you don't want to know. And I think that's kind of parenting. You don't really want to know. Just when you have to handle it, when you're in that situation, you'll figure it out. And that's kind of what we're all doing together, just kind of figuring it out.
I'm doing it right now and I still don't want to know.
This is me and my kids. And this is how, I mean, there's never been a more definitive photo of me as a father where you're like, that's just how it goes.
First of all, those kids are scrumptious. Oh my god.
That's the only reason I keep them. Otherwise, I would honestly, and I might still sell them. I'm not sure. I could get some money for them, but
I think that the reason children are made in those kind of bite-sized shapes, and we just love them so much because they're so cute and smell so good, is because it's preparing us for the fact that there's going to be a point where we're like, we want to sell them down the river, but then you remember how cute they are, and that's what makes you.
Well, honestly, I'm so close to old age that I'm just hoping they take care of me at some point, and that'll be the.
I've got a 1 in 3 shot. Well, 2 of my kids will for sure be in prison. The middle one might be okay.
Yeah. My friend called me the other day and she said, I need to ask you a very serious question. And I was like, what? And she said, do you think my daughter is a sociopath? And I was like, she's 3. And she was like, I think she's showing signs of it. I am. I was like, well, let's unpack this a little bit. So she started telling me all this stuff. Well, she's not listening. She's not doing that. She's not showing empathy. When she hurts her brother, I was like, she's acting like she's 3. I was like, you just the other day yelled at me about the fact that I didn't call you back fast enough. You ripped my head off. I was like, and you think that she's not showing? I was like, who's the sociopath now? And you're blaming your kid. So, I joke about it, but I think that there's just so much that goes into parenting and raising kids that overthinking it, I think, is probably one of the worst things anyone can do, is probably overthinking.
I mean, if the kid's skinning cats and wearing it as a suit, then yeah, that's something you might want to address at some point or something.
I have one last question before we let you go. And I need your advice on this situation.
Okay.
So my wife and I recently got vaccinated. We went out to dinner for the first time since this mess started.
Okay.
We got to the restaurant. It was a fairly nice restaurant. I wore a button-down shirt, Jamie, to give you a clue. I normally this is what you get. And my children, I have twin boys who are 2 and a 5-year-old. The twins behaved as if John Belushi in Animal House and Cookie Monster had a baby, and that baby went out to eat. They threw mac and cheese as if they had thrown it into a salad shooter. It was shredded. I actually tipped the waitress far more than it was almost the same price as the meal because I felt so bad. And my wife and I got onto the floor and picked the macaroni up because I couldn't bear that my children had done this in a public space. Oh. Before the pandemic, there was a little bit of issue, but nowhere near this level. How do I reintegrate my cave babies back into society?
Good question.
It's a very popular question right now because I think everyone has forgotten how to be social on some sort of level, and the children are no exception. I think, I'm sorry to tell you, you're going to have to do this. You're going to have to practice at home in order for them to get the treat of getting to go out and understanding that is a privilege to get to go out. Does anyone remember that, by the way, that like back in the day, like you could go out to eat?
Crazy. No,
right?
Yes.
Like now everyone goes out to eat. It's not a privilege. It's not like a treat, nothing. So at home, it's bringing back manners. I hate to say it, and I'm not trying to get too old school, but at the dinner table, it's about reinforcing those ideas, Jason, that, you have to, chew with your mouth closed or not, slingshot macaroni.
They didn't do it at home. they aren't like they make this at home. It was something about being in a public place that just set it off.
Dude, that's what iPads are for. Just put them on an iPad and eat your dinner. What are you doing?
Jamie's not totally wrong. I am definitely a big advocate of the iPad
Always.
at dinner sometimes, because I understand you want to be able to have a meal with your spouse or just have a minute. I get it. Yeah. But Jason, it may have just been one of those circumstances where they just were so excited and overstimulated. It happens. It may not be something they do every single time. But I do think that you should address it at home still, that when you go out and even when you're in the car, start talking about when we go to the restaurant, we sit in our chairs and you have to do this, put your napkins on your lap or whatever. You just start reinforcing those ideas as you're going. I remember my mom when I was younger, she said I acted terribly in a restaurant for like the first time she'd ever seen me do it. And she got up in the middle of lunch with her girlfriends and left. And I wailed, because the worst thing for Florence Ann is to be taken out of a social situation. So I was taken away. And my mother said I never misbehaved in a restaurant after that, because she literally got up in the middle of it and left. And so I'm not saying, Jason, that you needed to get up in the middle of that meal and leave and punish them in that moment. But it is about in that moment where they're behaving that way, sometimes you have to make that tough choice of like, you know what, you can't handle this.
It's good, because I actually consider getting up and leaving quite often.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it sends a very powerful message to the kids. And if you think that they don't pay attention to it, they do.
Well, the problem is we have false, I'm going to take this away. I'm going to punish you. I'm going to do this.
I'm going
to do anything.
Right.
My wife, I go, if you say it, you better do it.
Right. Follow through is a big issue with parenting, I think. And that you don't always want to be the bad guy, but teenagers, I see it all the time with teens. Oh, wait, Jamie, till they get older.
Hopefully I'll listen. I'm pretty old, so at that point, that's going to be my wife's second husband's problem. Hey, I have one last question. I know we're running super long, but you had something in your stuff that I thought was really interesting, and I'm not sure I totally agree with. Where you have yes days.
Yes days. I have some disclaimers to the yes days. Though.
Okay, because my wife, basically every day for my wife with the kids is a yes day. I'm hey, you can't give them chocolate chip cookies at 8 o'clock at night. They have school in the morning. So I'm so intrigued by your yes day.
Well, there was the Netflix movie, the Jennifer Garner movie.
Yes, man. Yes.
So cute. Okay, so cute. There are certain rules though, and I know that sounds counterintuitive to the yes day, but it can't be anything that is going to be dangerous, or it can't be anything that is going to be overindulgent, whatever it is, the parameters that you want to put on it, you can. I don't think a yes day is a free for all. They can't wake up and be like, okay, now, we're going to go to Disney World and you have
but they're going to eat candy. She's going to eat so much candy. She's going to go into a diabetic coma.
Well, but that's why I think that there have to be rules with yes day, that these are like the 5 things that are not part of the yes day. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like I said, there's disclaimers to it. Now, if you don't want to do that, then I want to see what happens. Please videotape that. And
I'm going to do a yes day. I'm going to do a yes day. And I maybe I'll film parts of it, but I'm so intrigued by it to go honestly, I think they would be so scared by it at first that they would be like, they feel like it's a trap or something's wrong.
My kids won't trust it at all.
So you're going to say yes to everything. I'm going to say yes to anything you want. Have at it. And they're going to be like, wait, what? It's going to freak them out. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to film it.
Film it. I think you should, because that's why anyone can tell you that they have a yes day with their kids and you think they're actually not putting any sort of boundaries on it. Of course they are. So yes day is kind of whatever you want to make of it.
Here's what I'd also like. If you could convince my wife to have a yes day with me. Is that something that's, Jason, is that possible? A yes day with?
No, it's never going to happen.
No, that's not going to happen. All I know is no days. So I don't know. I don't know yes days.
I have a headache days.
I think if you're going to do a yes day, I think all family members have to participate. So I think you could be.
All right, we'll see how yes day goes. We're gonna try it. We'll get back. And honestly, will you please come back and visit us again, because this was super helpful and super fun. I loved it.
Oh my gosh, I would love to come back. Are you kidding? This was so fun. I feel like I'm just hanging out with my brothers. This is very nice.
Well, we enjoyed having you, and I learned a lot too. That's the nice thing about the show is that you get a lot of different perspectives, and you're a wealth of information. So it was fantastic having you.
Thank you. That is so very
honestly,
kind.
it's super helpful. I'm gonna send the thing to my wife about how she really needs to she just has to stop feeling guilty about the kids and go have her time. And I'm gonna actually reach out to I'm gonna reach out to the other dads with all the wives who are friends of hers. Yeah. And we are going to put together a trip for the wives without them knowing. And we're going to put them on a train.
That is wonderful.
And get them out of here.
What an amazing gift. And it's important, you parents, and it's important you two also spend time together. You don't want to forget about that.
We'll work on that part. We'll
do that. That'll be another show.
That's a whole nother episode. All right. Our guest today, Florence Ann Romano at Windy City Nanny. Florence, is there anything you want to pub? Your book? What?
I would just love to tell you parents out there, I answer every DM I get on Instagram. So if you're struggling in any sort of way, reach out to me. I like to think that I like to be the virtual gal sitting on the couch with you having a glass of wine. So please reach out about any of it. There's no stupid question. And if you feel really alone right now, I'm there for you.
And also, if anybody has a book they want to send to Florence so she can fill her bookcase behind her, I think that would be
I need it desperately. I do. I just moved into a new house and I need someone to come. I should have sat like this more so. This girl does not have a book. Everyone out there is like, she didn't write a book. Look, she doesn't even read.
No, she's already, here's the opposite. You already read them all. You've read every book ever. Why would I have books? I've read them. I've read everything. I don't need a book.
That's why I know all this information is because I read all those books.
All right, you're a rock star. Hey, Jason, you want to say goodbye to everybody?
Goodbye, everybody. We'll be back next week where our guest, Mr. Josh Wolf.
That's right. Josh Wolf is here. He's a buddy of mine, a huge comic, and it's going to be super fun. Huge thanks to Florence. Huge thanks to John Nixon for coming in and ranting. Yeah. And thanks for everybody for showing up at the Parents Lounge. We'll see you guys next week.
Good night, everybody.